just
love
keeps
that.
getting better.
Oh,
Oh my goodness. What a level of congruency in the
Absolutely.
speakers that we're having here. I've never, by the way, other than like Scott Garber's Berkshire event and this Mile High, I have never seen, and Sherman Lyceum,
Right.
I've never seen this level of congruency
Right.
in the speakers and this level of big vision thinking that we have going
So I
on,
love coming to Mile
combined
High.
with strategy and action steps. It's
Danny
fantastic.
Knowles once again hit it out of the park.
Out of the park. Out of the park. This is the best one I've ever been to.
All right, who's up next? I know this gentleman.
Is it Dr. Christopher Kent?
Smartest man in chiropractic.
He's the smartest man in chiropractic, and he is now joining us on the Boulder, Colorado Mile High stage. Dr. Kent,
Hello.
welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All
Good
right.
to see you, Liam.
What a pleasure. What a pleasure to
Yeah.
have you here.
Pleasure. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Folks, get your notebooks out. This is going to be good. I have to tell you, Dr. Kent, we were having a conversation. First of all, for those of you who may be living under a rock, we're broadcasting around the world right now. My name is Dr. Liam Schubel. This is Dr. Frankie Hahn. He's the originator of IFCO television. To my stage left, we have the smartest man in chiropractic, Dr. Christopher Kent, who is also the director of the Foundation of Vertebral Subluxation Research. Also runs, is it On Purpose, the audio series for the chiropractic profession that I got to tell you, you need some chiropractic food for your brain. This guy's got it, but it's not just spiz. It's philosophy, science, and art of chiropractic delivered to your doorstep every month. I'm just honored to be in the presence always with this man. Every time I'm with him, I learn something new, and I laugh my head off because you're also very humorous on a side note. A pilot as well, fighter pilot, is that right?
Well, not really.
But jets, you're with jets,
I took
right?
some aerobatic lessons in a fighter jet.
Phenomenal. I have to
Wow.
tell you, what a pleasure to have you on here. Dr. Kent, why on earth did you come to Mile High this time? What's the reason you're here?
Danny asked me,
Ah, very good.
and I had never been here before. And as some of you know, I'm somewhat travel averse. I rarely leave my lair these days. But Danny said, you really need to be here. And here I am.
He's a very smart man.
You know, Dr. Kent, we had some conversation with Dr. Matt McCoy yesterday.
Yes.
And we were talking about research. And for those of us, the folks that are just joining us here, as you know, in Europe and Australia and certain other far continents of the world, South Africa, many comments that uneducated people make is there's no research in chiropractic to support vertebral subluxation. And Dr. McCoy says, that's very true. For some people, there's no research.
Yes,
Can you expound upon that because I know you're heavily involved in research. Why is it so important, the research we're doing? Is there any research that supports vertebral subluxation? I'm asking that obviously from a
Yes,
a
well, of
perspective.
course there is. There's a plethora of research, and people fail to realize that when you define a process, and I think of vertebral subluxation as a relational neurological process rather than a local phenomenon, something that affects the totality of the individual and their biological communication systems. And we see that the emerging thought leaders in science are moving in our direction. We're seeing them talking about salutogenesis, which is giving birth to health rather than merely trying to prevent disease, looking at strategies that empower people to express their life potential in the context of their own goals and values. We're seeing adaptability emerging as a discipline in its own right. And of course, the exploding field of epigenetics. Just today I got a paper on how the imprint of the Holocaust on Holocaust survivors is being transmitted transgenerationally.
Wow.
To not just their offspring, but beyond that. So we're seeing that the impact of this thing we call chiropractic, living a life through a nervous system that's not subluxated, that's not interfered with, not only sculpts the destiny of the patient or practice member, not just their family, not just the people they come in contact with, but future generations as well. And to me, that's both an exciting concept and a very sobering responsibility.
That is a very exciting concept, and being in practice actively for many years, one of the things that we saw was subluxation patterns with father and son and
Yes,
daughter, which is
yes.
very exciting.
Mhm.
You speak about some research that has been done with DNA repair.
Yes.
Could you talk a little bit about it? Because I find that very exciting.
Well, back in the olden days when the early 1980s or so,
Right.
Doctors Guy Riekman and Joe Felicia were involved in a movement they called Renaissance. And part of what they did, in addition to making patient education videos with stars like Lauren Green and
Peter Graves.
Peter Graves before he did Airplane.
Right. Mission Impossible,
Mission
Peter
Impossible, yes. I mean, big name stars
Sure.
teaching people about chiropractic. Another individual that they hooked up with was Dr. Ron Perot, who was a rather well-known cancer researcher at, I
Oh, that
believe,
Ron Perot.
yeah,
Yeah,
that Ron
okay.
Perot, yeah. And Ron was looking at DNA repair enzymes in the context of cancer therapies and how effective they were and so forth. And he hooked up with Guy and Joe somehow, and they did a preliminary study looking at DNA repair enzymes. I believe specifically it was um, PADRP. And they found that in individuals that had been under long-term chiropractic care, the DNA repair enzymes were significantly higher than they were in individuals with identifiable medical conditions and even controls. Well, fast forward about 25 years, and people had criticized this study because, for whatever reason, it had never been published in a peer-reviewed journal. And I ran into a chiropractor, Clay Campbell from Canada, who knew Perot.
Oh, wow.
And he set up a phone call.
Wow.
And to make a long story short, he said, "Yeah, I'd be game to do this in the context of getting it published." So we did a somewhat small retrospective study where we looked at individuals who had been under short-term care, typically around 6 months, though up to 18 months,
Yeah.
and people who had been under long-term care of 18 months or years. And they were compared to age, gender, and lifestyle matched controls that had no identifiable medical disease. Um, some people had criticized earlier studies saying, well, chiropractic patients are self-selected, they're more health conscious and so
Right.
forth. So we didn't want to be comparing, 5-pack-a-day smokers to Olympic athletes,
Right.
So anyway, that was used to select the cohort. And we also looked at individuals who had chronic disease, identifiable medical conditions in, I believe it was 9 different categories. And the results were pretty exciting. They showed that individuals who were under long-term chiropractic care had higher serum thiol levels than others. Now, serum thiols represent surrogate indicators of DNA repair enzymes as well as how well you handle oxidative stress. And the individuals that were under long-term care not only had significantly higher levels of serum thiols than individuals with chronic disease, they had higher levels than the age, gender, and lifestyle match controls. Whereas the individuals who were under short-term care were okay, but they certainly hadn't reached their potential. So the take-home lesson here is that if these results are representative, and I'm hoping that we can replicate this on a larger scale, if people go away, when the pain goes away,
Right.
they're not realizing the full potential of the chiropractic care. And there's stuff going on a biochemical level, if not many, many other layers, that they're just not enjoying the benefits of. And we saw another interesting paper that was published by Dr. Rupert's team at Parker College. And they looked at senior citizens over age 65, comparing the general population to people who had been under so-called maintenance care. And that was defined as an individual who had been under care for 5 years or more.
Okay.
And it could be as little as 4 visits.
Wow.
It was often more than that,
Wow.
but just that little amount. And what he found was that those individuals that were under long-term care had 50% fewer medical provider visits than the general population. Now, you think that's pretty spectacular? Well, yeah. And someone said, you mean we could cut the healthcare costs of seniors potentially by 50%. I said, no, it's better than that. They spent less than a third of money on as the individuals in the general population. So not only did they have fewer conditions that they sought treatment for, it was cheaper and simpler stuff. And to me, that's absolutely spectacular, because when people say, where's the beef? And I said, well, we're not able to do randomized controlled trials for every disease in the Merck manual, for every technique known, and we don't want to, because that's not what chiropractic's about. But if we use some of these experimental designs that have been used in the social sciences and that have been used looking at socioeconomic indicators, we can see that there are benefits of chiropractic care that cut across what disease, what symptom, what condition a person might have. And policy people are very interested in cutting healthcare costs. And to me, that's one area of research that can demonstrate a benefit for chiropractic care without getting into the allopathic model.
Isn't that one of the challenges really for our profession, is that so much of the research that's done is focused on back pain and neck pain and how chiropractic helps with that.
Yeah,
when it's
and
tiny.
it's a selective review of literature. Not
Yeah.
only is it a tiny thing,
Yeah.
but some of these studies show that it's no better than placebo.
Right.
There's one study that I like to cite because this was the basis of a lot of PR and patient education stuff.
Yeah.
They said, oh, we've got a study that shows that for people with this musculoskeletal pain syndrome, individuals who were under chiropractic care got better results than those that were seen by medical physicians and physical therapists. What they don't tell you is people who got nothing got better results than people who were under the care of the MD or the physical therapist. And the chiropractors were as good as nothing. I'm not excited about that. That's not something that I want to hang my hat on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not what chiropractic is. It's not what inspired me to become a chiropractor. It's not what I practiced when I was in practice. And it's certainly not what I seek to have as a legacy
Dr. Kent,
for my generation.
I follow you a lot. Everything what we do, we're all heavily involved in IFCO.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in, how did you get involved in chiropractic? Who was the one who kind of explained chiropractic to you, and then you became the chiropractor? We got to thank that person heavily.
Yeah.
We're very, very fortunate.
Oh,
very lucky.
this was a really cool moment. Most people don't know about this. I was about 16 years old, and I was experiencing a variety of health challenges, and my then best friend was encouraging me to see a chiropractor. In fact, he had a next door neighbor who was a chiropractor. And I had no idea what a chiropractor was, so I asked my mother, since she worked at the medical college. And when I said, what's a chiropractor? She kind of reared back and said, chiropractor? Why, that's someone who cracks your bones. And I said, cracks your bones? You mean they fracture? And she said, I guess they must. You can hear them snap. And I said, why would anyone in their right mind submit to that? And she said, I have no idea. I certainly wouldn't go.
Right.
So I had a
raving
contradiction.
review.
I had a contradiction. My friend, who was seemingly rational and certainly ambulatory, was saying, why don't you do this? And my mother's talking about iatrogenic fractures. So I said, I wonder if there's a way I can find out what chiropractic is without risking life and limb. So I found a local chiropractor. I called him, and I told him I was doing a paper for school. Could I interview him? I thought that would be a way to
A
test
safe
the
way to
waters.
get in there.
Right,
Yeah.
good idea.
So I went to his office, and he said, okay, come on back and ask your first question. And I asked him that question we've all been asked so many times, which is, what is it that chiropractors do? And he said, chiropractic is based on 4 simple concepts. The first is the body is a self-healing mechanism. Cut your finger, it heals. Cut the finger of a corpse, it doesn't. It's life that heals. He said, second, the nervous system is the master system of the body. Every dimension of the human experience is processed through the nervous system. Every thought, every feeling, every motion, every element of your reality is processed through the nervous system. So, whoa. And then third, and it gave me goosebumps then and it still does today, he said, if there's interference with the function of the nerve system, not only can it compromise your physical well-being, but because it distorts your perception of the world and compromises your ability to respond to the world, it can have psycho-emotional consequences too. And when that happens to a significant number of people in a society, you have a sick society. And he said, finally, what I do as a chiropractor is locate and correct the cause of that interference.
Wow.
And I thought, wow.
Yeah.
So to make a long story short, he did his thing. Conditions that he didn't even know I had, symptoms and such, went away. And it wasn't long before he said, I think that you should become a chiropractor. And I said, well, what does that involve? And he said, well, you have to make a pilgrimage to the People's Republic of Davenport, Iowa. And I said, why Davenport? He said, well, that's where it's done. And I said, well, isn't there a school nearby in Chicago? He said, you don't want to go there. Didn't explain why. And people often ask, well, why didn't you consider Life or Sherman? And I said, they didn't exist there.
Right, right.
So I went to Palmer when it was very much a chiropractic college. Graduated, and the rest, as they say, is history. And the epilogue to this that's really neat was when I went to the Chiropractic Centennial in Davenport in 1995. Had no idea he'd be there. He had retired. I didn't even know he was still alive. So anyway, I'm wandering around, and here this man is kind of in my peripheral vision. I said, I think I recognize that guy. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he kind of smiled, and you could see that glow that he had that day and still did that day.
Right.
And he said, I remember you. I saved you from dental school. And lo and behold, there he was. So that was a
Wow.
wonderful surprise to be
wow.
reunited after all those years.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
And now you're making that impact and shift in the future of the profession with the young people. I know you are a fellow member of the board of trustees at Sherman College of Chiropractic.
Yes.
Why did you choose to offer your talent and your knowledge to the board at Sherman College? Why are you involved with Sherman?
Well, my interest has always been in chiropractic education. After I graduated from Palmer, I joined the faculty because I thought, what can I do besides seeing patients that would impact the world on a higher level? And I thought, well, make more chiropractors.
Right.
Start with that. So I taught at Palmer for a number of years. Then we ran into some CCE issues that resulted in my resignation. And I practiced full-time for a number of years, and then got involved in all kinds of things, such as the development of instrumentation and doing research and the like. And I was invited to join the board of trustees of Sherman College. And I said, yeah. I remember the tagline used to be where chiropractic lives, Sherman College. And I was honored that they would consider me for such a position. I've never been involved in the governance of an educational institution. So I just thought, yeah, this is an opportunity I can't pass. And if I can do them some good, I certainly will give it my best shot.
Doc, if some students or chiropractors out there are interested in getting involved in more research, what advice or tips can you give them on what to do?
Well, first of all, I would say develop your critical thinking skills. If you're lucky enough to have Matt McCoy as a professor, take his class and listen to him. If you're not, grab any chance you have to hear him and read his stuff. Look at the peer-reviewed journals that he publishes that have a focus on vertebral subluxation rather than the treatment of musculoskeletal pain syndromes. Learn how to write a case study as a practitioner. You can offer a tremendous amount to your colleagues and this growing body of literature simply by doing case studies. And if you're interested in a higher level of involvement, you can get involved in a practice-centered research organization. The ICPA, for example, has such a program available. And when we're in a position where we can start to say to individuals who are detractors of chiropractic, well, we have studies involving, so many tens of thousands of individuals and so many hundreds of different centers and locations. Here's the data that we have. We've got something powerful. And again, there are experimental designs that, in my opinion, are far more appropriate for chiropractic than the classic randomized controlled trial. And this is one example. And last, if you want to make a career out of research, consider getting the credentials to do so, either while or after you're in chiropractic college. And I know that Chiro Futures, for example, has sponsored people with scholarships that want to get graduate degrees so that they can become full-time researchers. Lots of opportunities out there. You can get involved at a simple level as writing up these miracle cases as case studies and sharing them with the world and get them into the scientific literature so that they can be cited instead of just being blown off as testimonials,
Right.
to a practice-based research network where the data that passes through your office can be gathered, collected, and used to becoming a full-time researcher. So whatever your level of interest, there's a place for it.
Dr. Kent, you're also very involved politically,
Yeah.
and you're involved with the IFCO. I had the privilege to watch you testify in Washington in front of the CCE reaccreditation process. So you're involved in education, you're involved in politics, you also serve on the International Laws Committee at the IFCO, and you have something called Kent's Law. Somebody was asking me, is that like Wolf's Law, or what is that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think there are several. Which one were you talking about?
There's a law that you developed for, because I know we have an international audience here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And chiropractic is not maybe legalized or put into the statutes here. A lot of people don't know this. You also have a Juris Doctorate? Is that what it
Yes.
is? Yeah, Juris Doctorate. So
It's an attorney,
an
first
attorney,
professional degree for
barrister, that
attorneys.
type
Yeah.
of thing.
Yeah.
And so you've developed, a framework that people can use in their country if they want to develop a law based on all the mistakes that we've made.
Oh yes,
right?
yes. Well, no, when you said Kent's Law, I thought you meant some kind of axiom.
Oh, I
no,
see. Okay.
That's the international law that
Right.
IFCO developed, and it's gone through a number of iterations, and we're very excited about it. Not all of it, but some of the statutory language that we've proposed has worked its way into some state laws, and we're excited about that. But basically, on an international level, what we're simply trying to do is say, if you want to call yourself a chiropractor, you need these credentials, and this is the stuff that you can do. And we've essentially done away with the concept of an examining board where you have members of a guild deciding who their competitors will be.
Excellent. And that's an exciting prospect, because that is what we've seen in Latin America. So many
Yes.
cases that, in Panama and Costa Rica,
Yes.
it's, oh, you want to practice there? Sorry, we're
Yes.
not allowing any more in. There's enough chiropractors right now.
Mhm.
Oh, really? 2 for 5 million people?
Yes, yes.
You must be very busy,
Yes.
that kind of a thing. So that's exciting
Thank you.
that you're involved in that. I guess in closing, Frank, right? We for the folks that are watching at home and would like to get in contact with you, and I one of the things I appreciate about you is you are very accessible to people. And folks, if you're watching and one of the reasons you come to Mile High is you're walking around and you see Dr. Kent, you can walk right up to him and ask him a question, and he's more than happy to. He's not some aloof character that only speaks from the stage, and you have to get an audience with him and kiss his ring. He is very accessible and always willing
No
to.
rings. I need
No
a ring.
rings, and I'll get you one. And he's always willing to
Well, I
help.
need a hat.
Okay. But if folks want to get in touch with you and find out more about the Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation Research, more about On Purpose, the audio series for the chiropractic profession, featuring the philosophy, science, and art of chiropractic, done, I must say, in a very entertaining and informative way. That's one of the things I absolutely love about you. You take very, very complicated research and, 15-syllable words, and you break it down into something that we can understand, and most importantly, use in our practices. I've used a lot of that information to, get on television,
Oh, sure.
get on the radio.
You're the expert.
Well, thank
When
you. I
they're
appreciate
looking
that.
for a person, you want to be that person.
That's it.
When a so-called journalist is saying,
Yeah.
we need a chiropractor, you want to be the chiropractor they think of.
And that's it. And you can get those tools at some of those that things that you're involved in. So how can people get in touch with you, Dr. Kent?
Okay. Well, if you're interested in On Purpose or any of our related products like advanced subluxation training.
Oh,
which
that's
is an
another
online
really good one.
course,
Yeah.
just go to.
Just 1 second. That advanced subluxation training, because again, there are a lot of schools where you're not taught how to be, who you are, what you
Yes,
do, or why.
yes.
And this is a crash course
Yes.
on the scientific basis behind what we do and how to communicate that to the profession. Very good program. What is that called?
Thank
It's
you.
advanced.
AST, Advanced Subluxation Training.
Excellent.
So you can go to the website, chiroonpurpose.com, and find that.
Okay.
You can Google Foundation for Vertebral Subluxation, make an online donation. We're a nonprofit. And if you want to contact me personally, my email is cbkent, that's Charlie Bravo Kent, at ix.netcom, netcom.com.
Charlie Bravo, you're talking pilot talk now.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, Doc.
Well, thank you.
Really, really appreciate it. I know the viewers out there, they're chatting throughout the chat box and saying, you know, this is great, inspirational. IFCO-TV, they want to come back out to Mile High next year.
Well,
so,
I've got to acknowledge you. This is a great idea.
right?
And it's just the right length. You know,
Yes.
it's a nice bite-sized thing. It's big enough to get something meaningful done,
Right.
but it doesn't put people to sleep. So
Yeah.
kudos to you for developing this format.
Thank you so much. Well, it's that time, Liam.
It's
All
that
right.
time.
Thank you,
Okay,
Dr.
well, thank
Kent.
you.
We appreciate you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. Enjoy the rest of
Okay.
Mile High.
Thank you.
Wow. I'm telling you, it just keeps getting better. Oh, my goodness. Look who's here now. I mean, this is unreal. We got the top of the top in this profession, and they're sitting down and talking to us and sharing their gems of knowledge. Is this great or what?